Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. What a great honor. We have Eric Meahan from Repair 360 with us here today on the Roundtable. We have heard so much about reconditioning and the importance. What a great year and what a great start we have. Eric, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks, Ted. Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to it.
I am as well. Dealers are really looking for efficiencies. Before we start, Eric, next week, it seems the whole world is converging on Las Vegas on that big NADA show. Will Repair 360 and yourself, will you be out there?
Yeah, we're going to be there. Come look us up and stop by. We'd love to kind of go through the trends we're seeing in reconditioning for next year and kind of how we think we can help dealerships become more efficient.
Great. Well, efficiency and recon is all top of mind. So I'll come back to that as we wrap up a little bit later. Eric, in the meantime, if it's okay, I've got a couple questions to ask you that I'm wondering if you can shed a little bit of light on. And what we're seeing is that some of the biggest challenges dealerships are facing right now, we're in the fourth week of January. I can't believe we're a month in already. Within
Uh,
that used vehicle reconditioning vertical is recon. Okay, it's a big challenge. Again, getting things like approvals, getting parts, and having all this ready. What are some of the challenges that you're seeing as well? I called out a couple of them.
yeah, you're really hitting the nail on the head. And the reality is, reconditioning has become more complex, but a lot of the processes at the dealership haven't evolved to meet that complexity. And a lot of what we're seeing with our dealerships are complexities around the vehicle themselves, right? They have more ADAS systems, which require more calibrations. They have more electronic systems, require deeper diagnostics. We're seeing more EVs, you're seeing more hybrids. That adds a lot of complexity to the reconditioning process. And then layer on top of that is technician shortages, right? So there's still a shortage of mechanics, other type of skilled labor that's out there. Dealerships now are needing to rely more on sublets than ever before, and those have to be managed. And then layer on top of that, a lot of dealerships are still doing this on, pen and paper, email, text, spreadsheets, and they're essentially making that process more complex than what it should be.
Yeah, you're so right. And the amount of dollars involved is staggering. Okay, that time to front line, getting that down and reducing that. Um, if I can ask a follow up, how can dealerships restructure their recon departments to streamline workflows in your estimation?
Yeah, so what we typically coach our dealers on is to move away from this siloed department style reconditioning more into a predictable production workflow based system. And the best way to do that is really make sure you have a clear owner of your recon process. So it's not sales versus service. Make sure that you standardize your workflow, and that should start all the way from the time you appraise a vehicle that you're going to acquire till that vehicle is frontline ready. And that makes sure that you have a consistent process. You're delivering a consistent product to your customers. Treat reconditioning like it is a production line because it is. It is the supply chain for every dealership. And then I kind of hit it on a little bit before, but reconditioning should start at the appraisal process. If you're going to acquire a vehicle at that time, you can use tools like Blue Driver that help you identify what is wrong with the vehicle, what parts need to be ordered on the vehicle, and that kind of gives you a head start on lining up that vehicle for success through the reconditioning process. And then lastly, which gets back to dealers who are still running a lot of this on paper, is really creating shared visibility. So everybody knows what's going on with that vehicle. If it's idling, sitting around, why? If it's waiting on parts, why? If it's waiting on approval, the person that needs to do the approval has visibility into that. And that will definitely help them streamline their reconditioning and speed up their time to market.
You're right. All this starts with the appraisal. I'm noticing there's also now an emphasis, it seems, the last year and a half, 2 years on doing more appraisals in the dealership. What a great
Yeah.
place to do them in the service drive. You mentioned,
Yep.
not siloed, bring everybody all together. And really, that service drive is a gold mine, for everybody in the dealership. And everybody wins. And it's not like going to the auction. I've got the history. I could look at the car up on the lift and
Yep. Yep.
start that communication process earlier, right? And I think, in fact, let's hone in a little bit on communication, okay? Because you're mentioning a number of things that could hamper the streamlining process. How are profits impacted? And again, time is money. When dealerships don't have the proper management systems in place to ensure that proper communication each step along the way in the recon process.
Yeah, we like to tell our dealers that poor communication quietly kills their profits. And that happens a lot from, we see vehicles that just sit around and they're idling and nobody's working on them, but nobody
Yeah,
knows why, right? Because they
yeah.
dropped the ball in between the steps. You have vendors that should be working on some of these vehicles that either show up late or don't show up at all because they weren't communicated with around that vehicle. You mentioned approvals, but there's also, if there's a supplement that needs to happen on the vehicle, that also sits around waiting for that approval to happen. And then, of course, we see work that is either duplicated or just missed altogether because the communication wasn't happened. And every time a vehicle sits around an extra day, an extra hour, just idling, that's money that is just leaking out of the bottom line of that dealership.
You mentioned people owning different parts of the process. I was in a dealership late in last year. It was in December, and
Yep.
they had the same thing. They had vehicles waiting outside,
Yep.
and what happened was the used car manager would have to approve anything going into service for the recon process. But it was Wednesday, and the used car manager was at the auction, was out of town on Wednesday, and was
Yep.
not due back until Friday or Monday. And they
Yeah.
told me, well, you know what? We're going to have to wait, maybe 2, maybe 4 or 5 days until he gets back to start the approval. And then we may have to order parts. And I'm just thinking of those days. And now it's cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. It's adding up, and every day that we add, the gross on that vehicle is going to decline very quickly. We've only got what? What's the window? Is it 7 to 14 to 21 days to really maximize the whole process? What are you saying?
Yeah, I mean that's what they should be shooting for, and that's why we tell people they should treat it like a production line and make sure you have a backup to that person, or he has a tool where he can do that remotely if he's going to be that critical in the process. But you're right; every one of those vehicles now they're going to make less money per unit because of the delay.
And, in a bigger dealership, a bigger group, it just, expands, exponentially. The numbers get bigger and bigger. What are some of the things? Because you work Repair 360, you work with a lot of dealers, across North America. What are some of the influences, the macro influences that are impacting, recon today that you are aware of? Maybe even some of the nuances, and how do you expect those to impact the industry? We're in a new year, 2026. What are you seeing as you look ahead at the crystal ball?
Yeah, I mean, some of it we talked about, but it really is recon is being reshaped by labor complexity, margin pressures, and a lot of this is around the technician shortages, vehicle complexity. But excuse me, the other one that we're seeing a lot of is as new car prices have risen, and used car prices were rose quite a bit post COVID. Is the average age of vehicles is growing because consumers are keeping that vehicle longer. And then, of course, everybody is hot on reducing cycle time. So you have this speed to market pressure, which is very true, but that is applying a lot of pressure on the reconditioning process at the dealership itself. But this is why we say to our dealers that they need to stop treating it as a back office function, but make it more predictable, make it a production system, right? And that will help solve a lot of these problems that they're running into.
Eric, the dealer has a lot of money on the line in this
Yep.
inventory. I mean,
Yep.
they own the parts inventory,
Yep.
and then you've got this used vehicle inventory. And we are always concerned about obsolescence in parts.
Yep.
Okay, there's obsolescence in the used vehicle inventory,
That's right.
but it's bigger and magnified. Okay, and
Yep.
the clock is ticking. And you mentioned things like the technician shortage. And who's working on the vehicle, and finding the keys for the vehicle. All this enters in. And as you said, there's a lot of dealers still doing this on Excel spreadsheets or on pen and paper. Um, and yet there are great tools, okay, to help the dealer with this. Tell us more about Repair 360 and some of those tools you have, and how you help dealers.
Yeah, that's a good question. So we really see Repair 360 as being your production system. So it pulls vehicles in, allows you to appraise a vehicle, well, allows you to understand what work needs to be done after you appraised a vehicle, allows you to schedule the work for your technicians and your sublets, helps you actually quote and order parts. So we try to keep visibility into every aspect of what's going on with that unit at any important time. And one of the things that's really important is if the vehicle's idling, if the vehicle needs rework, if the vehicle has wrong parts, it bubbles it up to the top and brings visibility into those problems, helping you address those issues quickly to bring down that cycle time.
Eric, I want to maybe get some takeaways from you for our dealers and our retail audience watching today. Can you share with us maybe the top 5 ways that dealerships can streamline their recon process to reduce turn times and maximize profits? Just some quick takeaways, things that we should be aware of that we can implement and start on right away.
Yeah, I mean, I would coach anybody just to focus on speed, visibility, and predictability. But I think the ways that they're going to do that is if you're not starting recon at the appraisal process, like we've talked about, you need to focus on doing that. And there's a lot of great tools out there that can help you do that, and that will definitely help reduce your cycle time. If you're treating each unit individually and you don't have a standardized workflow, that's one of the biggest drivers that you can have on your business is to create a standard workflow so you get a very predictable process throughout. Create real-time accountability and visibility. So make sure you have a tool that is bringing visibility into every vehicle to allow you to measure things that are most important. Make sure that you empower your technicians with the tools that they need to do the job when they need to do the job. And this also applies to your sub vendors too, right? They're a very, very critical part of this process. And then probably the last thing, which I think is more important, is we've talked a lot today, and I hear a lot about reducing cycle time or time to the front line. And that is a lagging indicator of your success. But in reality, you should be measuring what's most important, which is your leading indicators that are going to drive that number down. And the things that we coach folks on to measure are things like idle time, how long vehicles are sitting around, how long vehicles are waiting for approval or waiting on parts. Another big one that we see quite a bit is vehicles that had the wrong part ordered. Right, so now you have to wait for the part to get returned, reordered. That's adding a lot of time into the process. And then lastly is around rework itself, right? That is something you should be measuring how often it's happening, whether it's an internal employee or a sublet vendor, and then coaching those folks to success. And if you apply those rules, that will bring down your cycle time.
You've mentioned the word a couple times, visibility, right? You've given visibility to what's happening in used vehicles and reconditioning. So important right now. A lot of our audience, I mentioned earlier, is and myself included. We're coming to NADA in Las Vegas next week. The weather should be good this year.
Yep.
Um, what kind of first of all, they come see you at Repair 360. What kind of things are they going to see? What kind of things are you going to be able to show? And give us a little glimpse into what's happening next
Yeah,
week.
yeah, you got it. So the one thing that we're going to be hitting on at NADA is really some of the trends we see going on into 2026 through 2027 around reconditioning itself that we think dealers should be focused on. And then we're going to show you using a tool like Repair 360 how we can actually help you get ahead of the competition leveraging those products. So those are going to be the big things we'll focus on, very tailored demonstrations around how we can help you solve those problems. And then we do have a couple of new features that customers have been asking a lot about that it actually help increase visibility and communication around a vehicle that we're going to showcase at the NADA. And then lastly, we're going to have some specials at the booth, some giveaways, as well as special pricing to help our dealerships sign up there and drive through success in 2026.
I got to put a teaser out there. Anything you could share with us today before we come out there?
Yeah, so the probably the largest feature we're going to showcase is around how we increase communication around a unit itself. So you're going to see that throughout our mobile application and our desktop version. So now we're driving communication around the product, and we've been piloting this with some customers and actually watching it actually drive down cycle time just by increasing the communication.
I love it.
Yeah.
Everybody, if you're coming to Las Vegas next week, NADA Show 2026, you want to put Repair 360 on your short list. Make plans now to visit with Eric Meahan and his team at Repair 360. They are the best in the industry. They know this uh, part of the industry very, very well, and probably nothing more important right now to generating profits and becoming more efficient in the entire dealership. If you're not going to NADA, some of our audience does not go. Eric, what's the best thing for them to do? Repair360.com?
Yeah, just go to repair360.com. You can connect with us on there, and we'll definitely make sure we still take care of you and then give you a glimpse into some of the stuff we're going to showcase at ADA.
And I see your email address scrolling across. Is that okay if folks reach out to you that way?
Yep, love to. Happy to always connect with anybody.
All right, everybody, there you have it. Recon, the focus for 2026. Eric Meehan with Repair 360. Thank you for all you do for the industry. and very grateful to have you join us today. And thanks for spending some time with us.
Thanks, Ted. I appreciate it.
Eric Meahan, everybody, Repair 360, here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.